Married people of Reddit, what's one thing you didn't learn about your spouse until after your wedding day? She's a great swimmer. One day, after we'd been married for about 7 years, we joined a gym with a swimming pool. She challenged me to a race. Okay, I thought, I'm a pretty good swimmer. I was surprised when she offered me a half-length head start, and then doubly surprised when despite my massive head start she beat me easily. Apparently she used to be a competition swimmer at school. She's basically half dolphin. But she'd never happened to mention it before. He dunks his Oreos in water instead of milk. I still don't know why. My mom found out my dad was a compulsive liar when his twin sister didn't show up to their wedding. When questioned about it, he said she must have imagined the dozens of stories he had told about his twin sister. He is an only child. My wife cannot read an analog watch clock for time. Married 4 years, been together 7 years total, and somehow that came up only a month ago when I asked for the time off a watch during a power outage. I don't give her a hard time about it, but that was a fun fact to learn. She makes PB&J sandwiches by mixing the PB&J in a separate bowl before spreading it on the bread. Pure savagery. Thanks for the silver, stranger. I discovered my wife is a hoarder, and doesn't want to throw anything away. She's gotten better over the years, but it's still an issue. She's always leaving the lids on everything unscrewed, and guess who is always breaking jars because he always picks everything thing up using the lid. A friend of mine eventually told his now wife that he didn't actually know French. He had been teaching her gibberish phrases. My husband and I dated for 3 years before we got married. After more than a year of marriage, he let slip that he is lactose intolerant. He knew that I absolutely love ice cream and we would frequently get ice cream on our dates. But he never wanted me to know about the lactose intolerance so that I could be happy with my ice cream. He absolutely cannot be trusted with desserts in the house. Back when we were engaged, he'd give me time to eat my half of the ice cream or Oreo package or whatever we had on hand. Now, I'm sitting here eating Thin Mints from a stash from under frozen veggies in our outside freezer. My wife is allergic to all artificial sweeteners. During the second night of our honeymoon, we decided to stay in and get some takeout. My beverage of choice at the time was Crystal Light Raspberry Ice, which contains aspartame. While we were eating, she wasn't thinking and she asked for a sip. About 5 minutes later she became extremely ill and started having issues breathing. After a few minutes she read the ingredients on my beverage and yelled at me, "I am allergic to aspartame." Me, being the loving new husband I am, yelled back, "Since when? You never told me that." She never bothered to tell me because she grew up in a household with no artificial sweeteners because she was allergic. Not me, but my mom found out decades later my dad was married when he married her, so yeah, my dad's a bigamist. Just how much she really loves Christmas. We lived together before we were married, and it wasn't that bad. But the moment we said I do, it changed. Now, she starts the Christmas train in ducking October. I'm talking the tree, garland and goddamn Michael Bublé. When I asked her about this, she said, "Oh, we're married now. So you have to like this too." Purely joking, but damn. How insane his mother is. He was clear that they had a difficult relationship when he was growing up and that he is really close with his dad because of her behavior. Since we've been married, she's been diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder, and her health professionals say it's likely she has genetic degenerative neurology, Huntington's. We were both on the same page in a newspaper. It was found a couple years after we were married. He'd never been to a funeral. It didn't come up until we had to attend one, and he had questions. She is a bit of a genius when it comes to finances. No complaints. Tilda that he can't put shit back where it goes, ever, and oh yeah, tilde he shot a guy once. She procrastinates cleaning until the task becomes unnecessarily difficult, which means she takes forever to clean, which means she hates cleaning, which makes her procrastinate. She also talks in her sleep, and that can be pretty funny sometimes. If my pants have 2 holes in them, why are 3 parts of me tired? My wife can't whistle, and she's never had a sloppy Joe. His addiction to cars. I never knew how much he really enjoyed until after we got married. Also his obsessions with speed and how he wants his cars to go faster and faster. He likes to eat fish. Somehow in our 6 years of dating, I got it into my head that he didn't like to eat seafood. My parents would cook dinner and invite him, and I'd constantly tell my mom, "No, can you make something else? He doesn't eat fish." My husband loves most seafood, with the singular, random exception of coconut shrimp. We joke about that to this day, that I unintentionally kept him from some of his favorite foods without so much as a conversation about it. That's a light-hearted answer. I'm sure there are many more. 11 years in and we are still learning things about one another. Been together 20 years. Married for 17. I've been telling the same dad joke since I was about 17. Whenever someone says something was intense I always respond with like the circus. My wife has been rolling her eyes at it for nearly 20 years, until about 6 months ago. I gave my lame response to her, but instead of rolling her eyes at me they got really big, like I saw the light bulb go off. Then she chuckled. She never got the joke until then. She farts. She had always farted around me. No big deal. Usually she kept it to little toots unless she was sick or drunk, then it would be loud like mine. I don't mind its nature. But holy duck, she unleashed an ass trumpet that would put college marching bands to shame. She can be across the house and I can hear her ass. Contrary to what my ex-wife said when we were dating, I learned she believed that sex was just for making kids. I'm happily divorced now, almost 12 years now that I do the math, but after we got married I learned that she viewed her money as her money and my money as our money. Which was interesting because before we got married my money was our money and she didn't have money to speak of. Not that I was even making good money. But after we got married she got a well-paying job and suddenly her money was hers and mine wasn't mine. It didn't last long after that. That he would make a fantastic father. What an absolute goofball he was. He was always so serious when we were dating. Now he can't carry on a serious conversation. Definitely some pros and cons there. My husband loves telling this story. He is a big meat and potatoes guy. On our honeymoon, I told him that I was becoming vegetarian. It was something I'd been thinking about for a while and couldn't implement well while living with my parents. When we got back from vacation, we fell into a routine where I did all the cooking. Turns out that he is lazier about cooking than he likes eating meat. Also, it turns out I'm a pretty good vegetarian cook. He now eats vegetarian whenever we are at home, and gets meat at restaurants when he goes out with his friends. He's totally happy with it, truly. It has been 10 years. He's the best. My wife informed me that she could not have children after we got married. This made me sad. Being able to prove her wrong made me happy. That she was adopted. In fairness, she didn't know either. My husband completely undresses from the waist down to go number 2. He says he needs the freedom. She changed a whole lot after the wedding. From wanting kids to not, from hating her parents and the way they treated other people to siding with them. Her mom was a nurse who constantly talked about patients negatively and her dad was an entitled business owner who tried to run people off the road constantly. Awful road rage. They both were the type of Christians that give the whole religion a bad name. She ended up remarrying one of my old college buddies shortly after the divorce. Not me, but my mom. She found out that my dad already had a kid when they got married. She liked to poop with the door open. That he plays video games for 10 to 15 hours a day. Even when he married and has kids and has a full-time job. With marriage counseling he cut back to 5 hours a day. It's now, year 22, back up to about 7 hours a day on weekdays. I never knew marriage was going to be this lonely. That he lives and breathes sports. I knew he liked sports when we were dating, but I didn't realize that's all he liked. I didn't know he would rather watch football games on Sundays than go to family dinners or anywhere else. I didn't realize he wouldn't want to watch anything but sports on TV. I didn't know that he would want to play or watch basketball/football/baseball/golf every waking moment. I didn't know he would prefer sports to sex. I was gobsmacked. That she sneezes like she trying to scare the shit out of you, scream sneeze. I'm still not used to it now, 10 years later. Duck, it's loud as hell. Our poor daughter gets scared and says, "Mommy, you're too loud." But in public she can hold it back. That I am solely responsible for her dreams, and I don't mean the want to have kids one day kind, have those. I mean the type where she wakes me at 3 a.m. and begins the conversation with "You wouldn't let me have the ducking window seat because apparently in her dream I wouldn't swap seats with her on the plane." She was mad at me for at least a week. This sort of thing has happened a few times. He's really good at doing household chores. Between us, I do all the cooking and he cleans up. He even makes sure the cutlery air dries on a cloth before wiping down the water stains. He developed a cleaning procedure to make sure the black marble kitchen top is spotless. He never ever leaves the dishes for the next day no matter how late the dinner ends, which can be really late when we entertain guests. Also, he has a fondness for the latest household gadgets. The robotic vacuum cleaner was a really good buy. Now he's eyeing an electric lock so we will never need to carry our keys again. She leaves a few seconds on the microwave. There's only so many times a guy can ask her to press the clear button. It's even the same as the stop button, just press it twice. I wouldn't be surprised if she tortured animals as child. She's a savage. She often shoots a thin stream of saliva out of her mouth when she yawns. Apparently she more consciously covered her mouth beforehand. She owns Hanson's entire discography. That my husband's anxiety is as bad as my own. It's actually refreshing because we know exactly how to help each other out when the other one's anxiety gets bad. Not me, but my parents. My mom learned that my dad was into some heavy debt after the wedding, literally like a week after, and she also learned that he was never going to give up his bachelor life for a more stable, family life, even though he had a wife and child. Happy times, this family. My ex told me his middle name was James. I saw afterwards on his driver's license that it was John. He would lie about random stuff all the time, for no good reason. My wife hates lime-flavored things. She is fine with lemon though. Not me but my mom. She found out my dad was extremely addicted to porn. They worked really hard to overcome it. She's only mentioned it once but I got the feeling it was super hard for her to decide to stay. Unless asked specifically to do something around the house, wife won't do it. With rare exceptions. Like she doesn't get mad when I'll ask her to clean or do dishes or anything. She just doesn't think about it.